Well, hello plant lovers. It is Matthew in Melbourne. Welcome to my channel. Thank you very much for finding me. If you're new here, I grow cold, cool, intermediate orchids here in Melbourne, Australia, either indoors or outdoors or not at all. Without the help of any grow lights, greenhouses or humidifiers, just me and them inside or outside, finding our way to success. So if that sounds like your bag, hit subscribe. I post every week. And this week, plant lovers, we are outside on a field trip because we have a bit of an epic repotting episode ahead of us. Yes, more Cymbidiums. Now, there is a backstory to these, as there always is. Here's Exhibit A, very, very, very healthy looking plant in a black plastic pot with a spent flower spike. And here is its cousin, again, a very, very healthy looking plant, perhaps more in need of a repot than the other one, and again with a spent flower spike in there. These were quite late to bloom and to finish, so let me tell you their story. Now, if you've watched a few videos, you may have heard the endless saga that yes, we are in a rental while we are renovating our house, and so, space is a challenge. Anyway, that project is actually being filmed, which is very exciting. It may or may not ever come to anything. If it does, I'll be sure to put the link. Anyway, the crew wanted to film us doing something coupley at the weekend. I suggested going to a flea market, a car boot sale, because I love such things. And there's one in the outer suburbs called the Coburg Trash and Treasure. Strange enough, it is Trash and Treasure, and it's in Melbourne's last drive-in cinema, which is fantastic, cool, and odd. Anyway, so they agreed to film us there, so we had to go one Sunday morning. Now, my other half, bless his heart, is a very committed shopper. He's even now learnt the difference. Well, he can spot a phalaenopsis, bless him. No interest in flowers, orchids, or gardens, but anyway, getting there. So off we went, and we had to be filmed sort of pottering around at this flea market. And of course, weirdly, well, not weirdly, it's one of the places that I go to find odd plants. There's often home growers there selling orchids, but also quite unusual cacti and succulents. And who knows what else you can find. It's one of those odd little treasures. I'll put the link below just in case you're in Melbourne and you're ever at a loose end one Sunday morning. Go to Coburg Trash and Treasure. Anyway, there we are, minding our own business. And it was a couple of months ago, it's before Christmas, so quite late in the season, but there was quite a few flowering Cymbidiums, and there were these two. Now I'll drop in pictures of the flowers. I can't remember which was which, but they're quite lovely flowers, and more of that kind of spidery open flower, which I much prefer. Anyway, my other half decided we couldn't live without them, so he loves to shop. One of my roles in life is a handbrake, but anyway, so we came home with these two. So I've waited till the flowers have died. As you can see, there they are. It's actually midsummer, so it is a little late in the season to be repotting, but hey ho, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You can see that the new growths are coming up here, so it's well into its growth spurt. So yeah, not ideal. I should have done it a few months ago, but forgive me, we're going to do it today. And what we're going to need is our giant terracotta pots. These I bought specifically for the job. Now, Cymbidiums have very vigorous root systems, and they can of course get very attached literally to their pots, but it's going to be in this pot for years. If you do soak them overnight when you come to repot them, it does soften the roots. And I recently made Cattleya repotting video, which sort of describes just that. Anyway, so there is a little bit of a risk that your roots might get a little stuck, but a risk I'm prepared to take. I prefer the aesthetics of terracotta. And the other thing, plant lovers, is I use out of the bag orchid mix for Cymbidiums. Forgive me. It's basically sort of medium to large bark, but a little bit more granular, so the sort of more soily, peaty element to it. And I find Cymbidiums love it, as do Australian native dendrobiums and sarcochylis, which I also use that potting mix for. All right, so I'll just show you where these were. Now, these were outside under the shade of some silver birch trees where all my other Cymbidiums live. So when we bought them, I just literally plonked them there to sort of finish doing their thing and to rest in the right kind of position until I was ready. So I went and fished them out. And here they are. So I'm going to swing the camera around and let's unearth them, trim off the dead flower spikes, see what the roots are doing and repot them. Okay, plant number one. Lots and lots of vigorous roots curling around in there. So it's certainly ready for a repot. Perhaps what you can't see here, but we might see closer, is dead pseudobulb. So we'll see if that needs to come off. Anyway, let's unearth it. Oh, There we go. Look at that root system. Oh my goodness. It is just all root and no medium. My goodness. Well, yes, I could take off this dead back bulb, but you know what? I'm actually not going to, because that would involve chopping up the whole thing. And I think at this point, it doesn't really need it. It certainly will in a few years' time, but at the moment, I'm just going to leave that. So let's take out this cane. And here is the old flower spike, as you can see here. So I'm just going to snip that off right at the base like that. There we are. One flower spike in the compost bin. So there's a new growth coming up here. And actually this is a new growth here too, which I can see. That's probably it actually. Certainly could do with a bit more medium around it. Oh, what's this at the base? Ah, it's some bark. Huh. Looks like they're wrapping around a panettone. I think this is actually bark from a paper bark tree. Anyway, it's not a bad base for a pot. So there we go. Fantastic, vigorous roots. As you can see, Cymbidiums have the most vigorous root system. So yeah, I think just having a little bit more medium around this, a little bit of food. This certainly doesn't need mycorrhizal fungi. Look at that. Anyway, let's pot it up. One pot. Let's take off the label. Voila. So this is our orchid mix, which I just buy from a hardware store. I'm sure wherever you are, there's a similar version. Bits in the pot. A little bit of slow release fertilizer into that mix. In fact, quite a bit. I feel this plant could do with some food. And I will put just a little bit of mycorrhizal fungi in there. The symbiotic relationship between mycorrhiza, so that's what it looks like, and just a little dash, 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 like putting cayenne pepper in a dish. So mycorrhizal fungi develops a symbiotic relationship between the soil and the elements in it and the roots of the plant. And they really need each other. The mycorrhizal fungi can't function without the energy from the plant, and the plant needs the mycorrhizal fungi to get nutrients and moisture out of the soil. So can't hurt the plant, can only help it. And you can get that online anywhere. Plonk that in. This is a very complex potting video, plant lovers. And then we're just going to backfill. I think it's going to love having some medium around it and the capacity to get some more nutrients. So this is the texture of the orchid mix. You can see it is quite peaty and there is quite a bit of sort of grainy matter in there, but I find all my Cymbidiums really love it. And it just makes life a whole lot easier, I have to say. Now, Cymbidiums do like to be pot bound. They like to be quite constrained, so you don't want to go too large in your pot choice, but you also want to give them a little bit of room to grow. So you kind of only want to repot them once every few years, I feel, and just then leave them to it because they can sulk in between potting. So I've chosen pots where they've got quite a bit of room to grow. It might mean they sulk for a year. There we go. Exhibit A, very handsome. So there we can see our new growth making a run for it, looking very beautiful. Fantastic. Okay, let's look at the next. So this one isn't quite so tall and vigorous as the other one, but we've got new growths coming out, which is great to see. A new growth there. Not quite sure what's going on with this one. Let's have a look. Now I am going to show you my my quite amusing patent pot squeezing technique. It's called the easiest way to loosen a pot in its pot, if it's quite big, is by squeezing it between your knees. Just imagine all those inner thigh workouts you're getting. Okay, hopefully that's nice and loose. And this one does seem to be in more of a garden potting mix than anything else. They were from two different sellers at the market. Oh, you know what? I'm going to trim off this dead flower spike first, just right at the base. There we are. So let's see what's going on with this one. Oh, that came out very easily. Quite a different situation here. Ooh dear, very wet, and yeah, a very peaty sort of garden mixy medium. So I am actually going to get a lot of this off. Now you can immediately see too, much less vigorous a root system. Quite moist actually too, perhaps even a little too moist. Oh well. What I might actually do with this one too is just give it a bit of a hose and try and get some of that soil out of there. Okay, I just feel I want to freshen this one up. It's a glorious sunny morning, as you can see. Excellent. Exhibit A slug is emerging from that potting mix. You evil beast. The slug must go, I'm afraid. I'm quite sure it's been happily munching its way through those roots. Come on, sluglet, you are going to a better place. Okay, so there we go. Cleaned roots. I feel better about that. So actually, lots and lots of very healthy ones. We can see the new growths coming here. Yeah, once again, I think this is just going to benefit from fresh medium and some food and a little bit of extra care, I think, but otherwise in really good condition. Okay. Bit of mix in the pot. Slow release fertilizer. And a healthy sprinkle, I think. I think both these plants are going to benefit from a little nutrition. And then mycorrhizal fungi, dash, dash, dash. Kind of as much as you'd put cayenne pepper in a dish. Give that a little bit of a swirl about. Now let's see how this is going to sit. I kind of want to get this part of the plant towards the edge of the pot so that these growing points have more room in the middle of the pot. So it's going to look a little sort of off skew like that. See what I mean? So we've got more space here for all these new growths to continue prospering. Right, hold that in place and backfill. And there we are, fantastically potted Cymbidium. Next step is to give them a watering in with the sea salt seaweed solution. So this isn't a fertilizer, it is a tonic. Splosh, splosh. And just give them a good soaking in. There we go. That also helps settle in the mycorrhizal fungi. But plant lovers, a quick segue from the book pile. Look what I just found in an op shop in Melbourne, which is a thrift store or a charity store, for the princely sum of $4. This book, it is called Heat Tolerant Cymbidiums, and it's by a Thai author called Kobsuke Kaenratana, who is a specialist in warm growing Cymbidiums in Thailand. And this book is absolutely beautiful. It's in both English and Thai, but it also includes some of the species Cymbidiums that I grow that are from the northern part of Thailand in the mountains, which are actually cooler and cold tolerant. And he also goes into the hybrids between those two that have more cool tolerance or heat tolerance. So very, very interesting book. If you are only in a climate that can just grow cool growing Cymbidiums, but you're not that cold like me, you can err into that territory of warmer growers, which I've just started to do with Cymbidium caniculatum, which is the Australian tropical Cymbidium, which is mentioned in this book. Anyway, it's really fantastic, and there aren't that many really great books about orchids in general, so this one was an amazing find. It also was with this book, which is Orchids of Papua New Guinea, a little bit older and perhaps not so relevant for me, but clearly, alas, perhaps someone is no longer with us who was an orchidist and whose books were taken to the thrift store. So whoever you are, whoever owned this, many, many thanks. It is really fascinating and I have loved reading it. Well, there we are, plant lovers. Mission accomplished. Two very handsomely potted Cymbidiums. It's midsummer here, so they've got plenty of time to finish maturing the growth of these new growths and just finding their feet before the weather starts to get a little cooler. Now, potting them at such a point may have put them in a bit of a sulk. Who knows? They might skip a year blooming wise, but hey ho, nonetheless, I've got plenty of other Cymbidiums that will hopefully bloom this spring coming. Interesting to see the different vigor of these two plants. This one is much more one of those taller, strappy types, and this one a little squatter. So I'll be interested to see how they do in my care as to how the flowers emerge as well. But there we are, plant lovers. Thank you very much for watching Cymbidium Repot 101. Pretty basic, I have to say. But I hope wherever you are, all's well. And if you want to know what I'm doing next week, you'll have to hit subscribe. So do that. My ramblings are very amateurish. But regardless of that, I hope things are well in your world, wherever that might be. And I look forward very much to seeing you next week.